All right, welcome back to another video. Today, we have something not so special planned at all. But there is one thing my truck has been missing, and that is its subwoofer. I have had a 10-inch SCAR sub in this truck a little after I bought it, but I've always had an issue with a poor remote wire. That's just the way my truck has been. My truck was swapped, so the wiring is a little bit funky on the truck. So today, I'm gonna show you a fix if your amp is having a constant power off of the wiring out of the radio harness. We are going to run it into the fuse box and it will run off of the ignition so that your sub turns off, because I was running into issues where my truck's battery was dying all the time. So here's the fix. This is what we're working with today, right here. Little fuse. So, as you can see, it's got a connection on the end with a wire, little butt connector, and it's got a fuse in it. This right here will plug into your fuse box. This fuse will go inside of this block, and this will hook up to your remote wire. Obviously, my remote wire is going to need extended, so I have just some little gauge, like remote wire to make sure I can extend it. Obviously, if you're doing anything electrical, always use electrical tape and buy a good brand. I prefer to use 3M, but there's a lot of other good brands out there. This is mine of choice. You need to get yourself a set of wire strippers, and I have an extra in a different set of crimpers because I don't like using these. I'd rather have my own crimpers, and that is what will crimp my butt connector here. So that's what we're doing today. Now that we have our items in our truck here, we are left with our radio. I do need new brackets, so don't make fun of how sideways my radio is, but assuming you did wire the sub yourself, you should know what the remote wire looks like. But if you did not wire the sub yourself and you bought the vehicle with a sub, I will show you how to find your remote wire. Now that you do have your radio out, you are left here with your radio harness. These harnesses here are just the harnesses for my controls. Now, 9 times out of 10, your remote wire is going to run up through here or something like this on a Ram truck as such, and it runs into your wiring harness there. A lot of times the remote wire is a blue wire or a wire that is of slightly smaller gauge than everything else, and it ties into your wiring harness. Now, it usually ties into your wiring harness from an external place because your remote wire doesn't have a wire in the original harness, so it's not part of the plug. This is for steering wheel controls, which clearly I do not have. So, then another tall tale that you have a sub wiring is usually your RCA wires. And a lot of times it's best to remember which way you took these out of the back of your radio as well. Some people may have to mark them, but that's not the point of today. The point of today is this remote wire. All right, so I am now seeing that my previous owner had wire nutted these, but as you can see, if we can get them apart here, this right here is the part for my aftermarket plug-in for my radio that has the blue wire. Now this is a blue, oh, I thought I had a black stripe here, but it is a blue wire. It matches the blue, obviously, but we are going to completely bypass this at all, and we are going to run this to our fuse box. So, for this particular truck, we have to pop the hood here and walk around to the front to find our fuse box, because there's not one located on the interior of the truck, or at least not one that I found preferably accessible. So, you come here and we are going to unscrew this bad boy, easy as such, and then this just comes right off, and we are shown here with all of our fuses. 9 times out of 10, you have a interface here which tells you what every single fuse is. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find the fuse labeled ignition, and then that is what I'm going to tie it to. All right, so I came into here and I saw that number 20 here, and we'll see if I can show it to you. Number 20 is ignition, unlock, run, and start. So we pulled the fuse here, and I'm actually realizing it has a 15 amp fuse in it, but it needs a 25 amp. So we're gonna see if I have a spare 25 amp fuse laying around, and then we are going to stick that in there. But this prong goes in this place here, and then this fuse slips back into there, and then your remote wire comes to the end of here. So, as you can see here, this just slips into the original fuse slot. I have a 15 amp and a 7.5 amp fuse in here. This is where our butt connector will hang. We're actually probably going to run the wire inside of here just for extra protection from the outside elements. I will run the wire up in through here, and it will be crimped to this. And then we'll go back and see if our amp turns on with our key. Now, I do wiring as part of my job, so I do have a little bit of a resume on this. But if you are working on your amp, unhook the power from it. You don't have to unhook the ground, unhook the power from it. You do not want 12 volts constant in it while you are dicking around with your amp. It can damage it. There's many instances that it has happened to me, and it will happen to you. It can damage it, and it will damage it. Unhook your power, please, and thank you. All right, so here, as you can see, I have my carpet peeled back, and I have my grommet there, which you can actually see a little light through, which I don't like, so I will seal that up properly. Got my little grommet there that I ran my power wire through. So I here have these together, and it comes under my carpet there, and we are going to run it up through there and into the engine bay. All right, now let's see right here. This right down there was said white wire. Now, I tied a little loop in it so that it was a little easier for me to get a hold of, but I am going to pull this, even though it goes further than it needs to. If you look inside of here, I still have a bunch of wire. So we are going to pull it until it is tight in the engine bay, and then I'm going to snip it off with a little bit extra. You always want to leave a little bit slack because it is ran under my carpet. So if something is hit in that area or you step on the throttle or something, it needs to be able to have enough room that it won't just straight rip it out of the engine bay. So we're going to run it a little bit loose. I'm going to zip tie it up out of the way of any water or anything in my engine bay, and we should be done. All right, now, so with my carpet back in place, we can grab my snippers here. And as you can see, I got it running out of the little grommet down there. And I have way too much wire. But I always like to say, I'd rather have a little bit too much, especially in something with wiring, and have to snip it than have not enough and I can't make it there. And then I have to do this shit again twice. I would preferably not do it again. Wow, words. I would prefer to not do it again twice. So I am actually going to take this wire and it will be ran up around somewhere so that it's out of the way of elements. Because as you can see right to the ground down there, which means water, rocks, and everything you could think of comes flying up in this engine bay. If you can't tell by how dirty all of my shit is. I am going to be getting a skid plate for this truck very soon. But for now, I want this wire zip tied up out of the way where it cannot be hurt by the elements. All right, so I do need to clean up some of the loose wire down there. But as you can see, I have my remote wire ran with my power wire strapped to my actual harness. And then it comes up, I have my power hooked back up, and then my remote wire actually runs down into the loom for the power wire that goes to my battery. It runs all the way down this loom and pops back out at the bottom, which is where we will wire it in to where it belongs. All right, so obviously here, our last task is to wire this white wire to what goes into our fuse here. So I am going to leave a little bit of slack in it. So we're going to measure it out. I'm going to cut it here. Boom, drop the excess, gone. I need to grab my strippers. So we take our handy dandy strippers here and we're going to come and measure the gauge of the wire here. It looks to be a 16 gauge wire. You pop it off and there you go, boom. We have the white wire stripped. I always like to give my little wires a little twist. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I like to give my wires a little twist on the end before I slip them into here to be crimped. Slide them in, and then we come here and we crimp it with our crimpers. And just like that, you have a wire perfectly secured. Obviously, the last plan of attack here is going to be to take a little bit of our electrical tape, wrap it up, and then we get to test to see if my amp turns on like it should. Actually, we're gonna test that before I completely button up the job. All right, I am going to walk to the other side of the truck and we are going to see if my power light turns on when I use the key to turn the ignition on. So, in conclusion, I could not get the damn thing to work. I cannot find a 12-volt power that isn't constant. I'm trying to find one that turns on with the ignition and off with the ignition, right? And most people say cigarette lighter, things of the such. I did my research and I cannot find what I need. It either has constant power or no power. So I am going to get my sub back because I did borrow it to one of my buddies. I'm going to get my sub back tomorrow and then I am going to retest this again. And we'll see. I don't know if I can find something. If not, maybe I'll just wire it to a switch. And when I want my remote wire to have power, I'll flip the switch on. The amp will turn on. I'll flip the switch off. I don't really want to do it like that. But if that's how I have to do it, then that's how I have to do it. But I do really hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's a lot coming for that thing very, very soon. I'm not going to spoil any of it. But it is going through a complete transformation in pretty much every way besides the wheels, is all I have to say. Well, the wheels too. The wheels are getting painted. I haven't decided on a color yet. I'm thinking about re-chroming them. But that's not the point of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace out and have a great rest of your night.